Okay, this is where Max Verstappen commits the infringement of overtaking during a safety car period, which should get penalised with a minimum of a 5-second penalty, maybe even a 10-second penalty. Let's have a look. Now, I'm having to play this at a quarter speed. It still might get blocked on copyright, but we'll give it a go. So, this is a replay. Quarter speed, so just bear this in mind. Aerial shot about what is going on. So, just to recap what we're actually seeing here. This is the start-finish straight. Fernando Alonso crashed, causing a safety car. A safety car period that lasts 8 laps. It takes 8 laps out of the Grand Prix. There were 4 lapped cars. Those 4 laps, so then 4 cars got released on lap 40. Halfway around that. But rather than use that 1.5 laps to try and catch the back of the pack, which is what the regulation is there for, to restore sporting fairness to those 4 cars, 2 of those cars, the Haas cars, in fact, the Kick Sauber might have done it as well, but it's the Haas cars that are the ones that are in question here. They pitted just half a lap on from being released in that safety car situation. And they double stacked. The first one was Ocon, and he went into the pits, and then Behrman followed him. And in the time it took to change them tyres, the safety car snake made it around and caught him. So when he returned to the track, he became lapped again. The FIA broke their own regulations by releasing him again, because at the point where he got lapped again in that safety car window, it was well beyond the point in time, which was the second time he crossed the line after the safety car had been deployed. So he's then not eligible to be released again. But the FIA, like they do, swept him out of the way of Verstappen so that Verstappen had a clean run at the car in front, rather than have a backmarker in the way, who now didn't qualify to unlap again. The previous video that I did will give a greater breakdown of that. Now, what you're viewing then is the start-finish straight, the safety car snake, where now the safety car is entering, I believe, lap 41, which is the mandatory safety car lap that it has to perform, and it will return at the end of this one. It is during this lap that those released cars should be travelling around the rest of the track at greater speed, making every effort to rejoin the back of that safety car snake. But like I say, the Haas chose to pit their drivers. They then, one of them re-emerged in the pack, getting themselves lapped again by Norris and Piastri, although not by Verstappen, and they still get released. Now, the key is this: as he's coming onto the track, this is still classed as the pit exit up until almost turn 1, where you will see a white line going across the track. It is at the point in time where that white line going across the track is that it is determined who is ahead. So, at that point in time, the safety car has passed that line, Norris has passed that line, Piastri has passed that line. Behrman is the next car to cross that line. He crosses that line ahead of Max Verstappen, although Max Verstappen beats him to the corner. That is an overtake. That is overtaking during the safety car. Let's watch it through. So, I'm going to hit play. It is a bit slow because it has to be, unfortunately. So as you can see, in the pit lane, still classed as the pit lane, is Behrman exiting the pits. Going round turn 1 at the moment is the safety car there. The next car on the road behind him is Norris. That's Piastri on track, crossing that white line now. And Verstappen is under that Louis Vuitton bridge. And we can see, I wish I could zoom this, but here is where we're looking. The white line going across the track determines which car is ahead. So, Behrman in the pit lane is clearly the car now that's ahead. And we go to the corner, we play this through. Because as Karun Chandok will tell you, but Max Verstappen carries so much extra speed, and it's understeer, understeer, understeer. Which car's ahead now? If that was the start-finish line, which car is ahead? If the apex here, a line across the midpoint of the corner was drawn there, and that's the finish line, which car wins the race? Which car won the race to the apex? Oh, that would be Max Verstappen. That is classed as an overtake. And for those of you that will say, "Oh, yeah, but he was only ahead for a little bit." Remember when Lewis Hamilton received a penalty? I don't know whether it's 5 seconds, don't know whether it was a 10-second penalty, where I think it was last year, might have been the year before. These seasons blend into one. I think it was the Austrian Grand Prix. Was trying to get into the pits, whether it was a late call into the pits, whether he misjudged his speed, kind of locked up, went across the pit line. So this white line that separates the track and the designated pit lane, Hamilton veered across that slightly, only a little bit, and then back into the pit lane, and not a problem, but he did cross the line, okay? Still got a penalty. Didn't matter that he'd only done it for a second or a fraction of a second. He did it and got a penalty. Max Verstappen has overtaken a car on track under a safety car. That is a penalty because it's forbidden. So, playing this forward, Max then seems to bail out. He probably realises that he's not allowed to overtake. He probably computes. Doesn't matter. It's too late. And then we see Behrman. It all becomes a bit of a skirmish around there, and Max drops in behind him. Now, what should happen is this lap complete the way it is, and restart like this. And when the safety car peels in, and when they cross the start-finish line, Behrman there, the third car on the track, because you've got Norris up here, then Piastri, and then this gap here, Behrman gets blue flags. So has to get out of the way of Verstappen. That being said, though, it still impedes Verstappen, because what you'll find is when the field bunches, you will get Norris, behind him Piastri, normally about a half a second behind him. Even if Behrman reacts well to the restart, he's going to be half a second behind Piastri, and Max Verstappen will be about half a second behind Behrman. Which means rather than be half a second directly behind Piastri and able to challenge Piastri straight away, Verstappen's at least a second behind. Less able to challenge. Harder to get directly on the back of Piastri to challenge him immediately. But what do the FIA do? The FIA get Behrman out of the way, even though that's a breach of the regulations, because he qualified in the first instance to be released, and he was released. Then he's got himself lapped again. He's now got himself lapped by Norris and Piastri. And they release him again. And he does not meet the criteria for being released, having got himself lapped that late into a safety car window. Max Verstappen then overtakes him, and we'll go back here. Let me see where we are here. Here we are, the replay. Aerial view. So you can see going down the pit lane is Behrman. This is Max Verstappen's car here. I'm circling with my cursor. You've got the safety car just about to round turn one now, followed by Norris. Piastri crossing that line. Behrman crossed the line, clearly the car that's ahead. So therefore, if Max goes ahead of Behrman now, it's an overtake. because Behrman is the car that's ahead on track in the safety car situation. And Max Verstappen is ahead. No two ways about it. Behrman's front wheel is about in line with the midpoint of Max Verstappen's car. Verstappen is ahead. That constitutes an overtake. That constitutes an overtake under safety car conditions. That's at least a 5-second penalty. But the stewards don't identify that. Sky Sports F1 don't identify that. The BBC fluffer himself, Andrew Benson, doesn't identify that. No further action, nothing to see here. This is Max Verstappen rules, everybody. The great leveller, says Crofty, after Max is put right in the back of two McLarens, having been 16 seconds behind them. But the safety car comes to his rescue. Oh, but we all expected a masterclass in the wet, didn't we? There's a narrative going on in this show, isn't there? There's a narrative. Seems that somebody always gets the best outcomes. Other people get penalties, but not this lad. Not this lad. And why would that be? Well, who were the stewards at the Australian Grand Prix? Well, we've got Gary Connolly, one of the corrupt musketeers from Abu Dhabi 2021. So Gary Connolly there, is he one of the few that go around on the Red Bull jet as a jet from Grand Prix to Grand Prix? Is that Gary Connolly? Him? He's one of the stewards, so nothing to see here. No penalty for Max there. But what did take place at the Australian Grand Prix is that Mercedes, the team, Lewis Hamilton's team back at Abu Dhabi 2021, that lodged an appeal on the day, but then didn't lodge a further appeal within the 96-hour deadline, chose to comply with the fraud. They did lodge an appeal within the 96-hour deadline, just to appeal Kimi Antonelli's 5-second penalty that caused a loss of one place in one Grand Prix. So Mercedes are able to lodge that level of an appeal, the deadline for which would have been Thursday this week. Yeah, Mercedes lodged that immediately to gain Kimi Antonelli one position in one Grand Prix. And yet, the appeal that Mercedes needed to lodge that would have resulted in Lewis Hamilton winning a record-breaking 8th World Championship, they failed to lodge. Go figure that one. Thanks for your time.